Hello everyone, what's up? It's me again, Junkmaster 3, and yeah, what do you know? It's time for a new video. I'm really sorry that I haven't uploaded anything lately. I mean, I've been pretty tired and pretty sluggish in general. I think it's just basically because of my new medication or something. That could be the case, but that's just a guess at that. So yeah, but anyway, let's continue with the 90s series, shall we? So in this video, I'm going to talk about my 10 favorite horror movies from the year 1998. So we're almost at the end of the 90s series in general. After that, I might consider to make a 2000s horror movies for each year that I prefer, like top 10 for each year in that decade. And after that, I might consider doing a 70s one as well, but we'll see what happens eventually. But now let's begin with the top 10 of 1998, according to me at least. This is just my personal opinion. So at number 10, we have The Blade, with none other than Wesley Snipes. We already know about this film. This is very well known, really great, amazing vampire film, which I believe is also like, I believe it was like a comic book character as well. I'm not too much into comic books and superhero stuff in general, if you probably know that if you've followed my channel for quite some time. But I think Wesley Snipes does an amazing job in this one. This one also has Chris Christopherson, who is also really great as well. One thing that really takes away, I mean, the thing is about this film, whenever I talk about Blade, I usually think about the second one. And that's not really anything to like bash on the first one, because I think still the first one is really entertaining, and that opening sequence with the showers, like all the blood coming out, I think that is just really cool and creative to look at. It's very like a very late 90s feel to it. That's what I wanted to say. But I actually think that the second one is even better than this one. I think the main reason why is because I feel some of the, I mean, it's just like a minor thing, really, because you can say it's sort of the same thing with some of these late 90s horror movies in general, but I feel that the CGI, or like the computer effects, haven't really aged very well, especially like towards the end of the film when he's like fighting all of these vampires and they kind of turn into like skeletons and like ash or whatever. I think some of those sequences look very dated and really takes away for a little bit when it comes to that. I mean, I still would say any day of the week, I do prefer the second one. Third one, well, let's not talk about that one. That's the weakest one in the trilogy, in my personal opinion. But anyway, as for this one, this is still a real entertaining. So this is just like a minor like complaint I have about this film. So, but yeah, Blade, at number 10. And then at number 9, we have the fourth one in the Phantasm series, Phantasm Oblivion. Now, this film, obviously, I don't really know how to speak about this specific one unless I need to spoil the rest of the series. So I don't want to say too much about this one. But one thing that I always thought was quite fascinating about this film is that they used some footage from like the earlier, I think it's supposed to be like the first film, and they used that for this film. And it's not like they took some footage from the first film, they actually took footage from the first film that wasn't used in the first one, and sort of like shoved that into this film. Some people would say, well, that's probably problematic and that's really annoying, but somehow they made it work, even though I would totally say that this is the weaker one out of the previous movies. If you count like 1, 2, and 3, I think this one is the weakest one out of those. I think out of all of the Phantasm films, I think Part 5 is the weakest one, but I still enjoy that one for what it is. But yeah, this one is good. I mean, if you've checked out the other Phantasm films, go check this one out as well. I think Phantasm is like a horror series which doesn't really have a really, really bad film. I know some people really bash on the fifth film, but I still think it's good for what it is, but it's definitely the weakest one. Now let's see here. Then we have at number 8. This is a very obscure one, you could say, sort of. Now this one was released the same year actually as another very popular film, which might pop up on this list eventually. Spoiler alert. But this one, for some weird reason, went into obscurity, and the other one really got really, really famous. But this is the Japanese horror film called The Spiral. I believe this is known as something else as well. But I believe it's actually... Oh, sorry. Just completely lost my voice there for a second. This is not directed by Hideo Nakata, who you might remember as the guy who directed The Ring, or Ringu, if you want to call it that. Now, but I think it's sort of like from the same production company or something, and this one just was released, and then it was never seen again. And then obviously for some weird reason also this DVD went out of print super fast, and I was just really lucky for to get a hold of this one because a friend of mine found this for me dirt cheap, and yeah, I was really glad about that. So yeah, thank you about that for that. But yeah, Spiral, nonetheless, I don't know what else to say about it because this is yet another one of those films that you really need to go into completely blind, because I think this one is not necessarily anything that relies on blood or gore effects or anything like that. This is more based on the atmosphere, and the score and the music is really great in this one. The locations are pretty to look at from most of the time, and the acting is really really great as well. So if you all have all of those things, you have a good film. But yeah, Spiral at number 8. More people should watch that if you can find it. And then at number 7 we have Halloween H2O 20 years later. I believe this was directed by Steve Miner. It doesn't say here on the back. Let's double check on the yeah, Steve Miner, who is probably most famous for directing, I believe, part 2 in the Friday the 13th franchise as well. Now this one completely I believe this one actually does takes place right after, not right after, but 20 years after the original film. So they kind of dismiss all of the sequels that came after this one, or like before this one. You get what I mean? The whole Halloween storyline is just really muddled and really all over the place at this point, so it's just really strange. But I think this is a nice follow-up for what it is. I think Jamie Lee Curtis' character, I think this is the best I know. I mean, this is the best character of Laurie Strode, like the best portrayal of that character in this specific movie, along with the original one. I do not like the later Halloween films at all. I think she kind of comes across like a really annoying person in general in those later films. But this one is, I mean, I loved her performance in this one. I liked the character development of her character, and that her son is now also in peril, you could say. I really wish that you stopped at this point right after this one, because I think this one has an amazing ending. For those of you who have seen this film, you totally get what I mean. And then we got Halloween Resurrection, which is probably still to this day the worst film in this entire series in general, if you count all of them. But this one, if you've seen any of the other Halloween movies and you haven't seen this one, go check this one out. I do actually prefer. I mean, I'm not saying that you should watch like. I think you should watch all of the Halloween films before watching this, even though this doesn't have anything to do with part 2, 3, 4, and 5, and 6. I know that sounds weird, but I usually say that because you really want to have something to compare with from time to time. So, yeah, anyway, Halloween H2O 20 years later at number 7, yeah. And at number 6, we have a movie by John Carpenter, and it is this movie called Vampires, which is a movie that this one has really grown on me from time to time, because this is a film that I didn't care too much about the first time I watched it, but I thought the characters weren't really memorable enough or like entertaining enough. But as of late, I've really grown into this film in general, and I really like the performances. And James Woods really steals the show in this one. He's a complete badass in this film. He has to face off against these vampires, and he has to defeat this main vampires, like the head of the gang, or like the vampire gang. It's weird to say if you haven't seen the film, but so James Woods and his team are basically assigned to hunt down this main vampire to end the vampires altogether, you could say. Really Western type of atmosphere to this one, and it has sort of like I wouldn't necessarily say a metal score or anything like that, but it's a very late John Carpenter film, so you probably know what you're getting in for when it comes to this one. But yeah, vampires, really underrated in general, I would say. So yeah. At number 6. And then we have a monster film directed by Steven Sommers. Now, this is not the Mummy any of the Mummy movies. This is the other movie he made 1 year prior to the first Mummy film, and it is the movie called Deep Rising. I've never really liked this front cover, but this is the release that I have. With Treat Williams, rest in peace. Such a sad story what happened to him, but this is, I mean, you could sort of say this is your typical sort of like horror movie. Like, I love this type of vibe when it comes to some of these horror movies, especially like those like Deep Rising, because you have like this group of people, they're stuck somewhere and they have to fight for their survival, and they sort of like get picked off one by one by, in this case, a really strange and creepy looking monster. And that's a premise that I used to really love. That premise, I know it's been done to death at this point, but I really like the whole vibe as to you have some of your favorite characters that you really root for to survive, and you have some of these really annoying idiots that you just want to get picked off like right off the bat, and sometimes you never really get that, and sometimes it's the other way around. So it's a nice little sort of like a gamble thing as to like who would survive and who would yeah die in the film. But anyway, Deep Rising. Oh, sorry, I can't speak to that. I don't know what it is. But anyway, Deep Rising. If you haven't seen this one, and if you're a fan of monster horror type of films or survival films in general, go check this one out. This is really entertaining. For granted, some of the CG and stuff in this film is sort of dated as well. But I mean, if you look past that, this is still a really entertaining film. So yeah, there you go, Deep Rising. And let's see here. At number 4, we have Bride of Chucky. I have talked a little bit about this one with my good friend DVD Review Studios here on YouTube as well, where we discussed the whole like Child's Play or Chucky franchise in general as a whole. I haven't seen like the TV series, so I might pick that one up on DVD or Blu-ray eventually, which was unfortunately cancelled. I don't remember why, but yeah. This one though, I think is a really nice addition to the film, to this franchise, because in this one we get introduced to the love interest for Chucky, who is Tiffany, played by Jennifer Tilly, because she also wants to be a doll just in order to be with her lover, who is Chucky in this case. Which is really strange and really bizarre, but at the same time, in some weird way, it really works. And I think the comedic parts in this one works a little bit better than it did in part 3, and especially Seed of Chucky. I think Seed of Chucky is one of the weakest ones in the entire franchise, but that's just my personal opinion. But if you haven't seen any of the other like Chucky films before this one, go check this one out as well. This one is directed by, I believe, Ronnie Yu, who is also known for directing Freddy vs. Jason, which I also really enjoy. I know it's a very different type of film in general, but yeah, I don't know what else to say about it. But I remember this score, the soundtrack for this film being really entertaining as well. So yeah, Bride of Chucky, yeah, really great film. I prefer that one over part 3. And then let's see, at number 3. Speaking of number 3, we have the first movie in this trilogy of films, and it is Urban Legend. Right up here, this is the first one, and then we have the second one, the third one right here. Second one, I think, is the weakest one. I know many people really despise the third one, but in some weird way, I have a soft spot for that one in some weird way. But so I would say part 2 is the weakest one. Part 3 is okay, actually, in my personal opinion, but the first one is the best one. And you have some really, I mean, this is really like very much like Scream and I Know What You Did Last Summer. It's sort of like those type of films that really try to capitalize on the success of Scream. And some people would just consider them like really bad, like Scream clones in general. So it's sort of like a similar type of storyline. Like some people are like killed off in brutal ways, and then obviously some people need to figure out who the killer is, and eventually. And I really like the fact that in this one, it's not really obvious as to who the main like bad guy is in this film, which I thought was really entertaining and really like it's an interesting twist to the whole thing, which I didn't really see coming when I saw this for the first time. Obviously, when we've seen it lots and lots of times, you already know who the killer is, but I still think this has lots of rewatchability to it. And you have like a really entertaining cameo by Robert Englund in this one as well. So yeah, I don't know what else to say about it. So if you do like Scream, if you do love I Know What You Did Last Summer, I can highly recommend this one as well. There was another one that came out around the same time called Sherry Falls, and another one which was just called Valentine. Both of those are very similar in terms of like storyline as well, and like sort of like the whole Scream-esque vibe to it. So those are other ones that I can recommend as well. But yeah, Urban Legend at number 3. Yeah. And then number 2, we have the movie called The Faculty. Once again, another one of those weird creature feature type of films. This takes place in a high school, I believe, and it's basically about these people, like these kids. They do kind of like suspect that some of their teachers are actually like aliens, and they have to prove it and stuff. And there's some like really questionable like CGI from time to time, which I haven't really aged very well either. So I mean, you have to think about that when it comes to some of these films in general. But I think what really saves this film, or what I would say is like the best thing about this film, is the cast right here. I really like all of these actors right on the front cover. But what I don't like is when they shove all of these people on the front cover and they do nothing else about it. It's sort of like the floating head syndrome, you could say, with some of these later like 90s films, horror films in general. They just had to shove all of the main stars on the front cover and do nothing else about it, which, yeah, you get a really boring front cover when it comes to that. So, but anyway, as for The Faculty, if you haven't seen this one, go check this one out. If you're not a fan of creature features in general, check it out for any of these actors. I think all of them did an amazing job. So it's also worth watching just because of that. So yeah, The Faculty at number 2. And at number 1, we have a film which I slightly mentioned, or like almost spoiled a little bit for you, that this might show up in the list eventually. And it is the original Ring, or Ringu, if you want to call it that in Japanese. I have this release and I have a Swedish release of it. Why did I put out this specific release? Well, the thing is, this specific release is very precious to me because it sort of have nostalgic value to me, because this particular release I picked up when I was on vacation in Ireland many years ago. And just when I saw this front cover and everything, it just really like, what is this? I really want to watch this. This was so many years ago, I can't even remember when it was, but I remember I saw this front cover right here, and I had heard about the film prior to this, so obviously, but it was just the release itself. And this is released by Tartan Asia Extreme, so you know what type of movies you get with that. They're specifically like release movies from Asia in general, and I really love this front cover right here, which is sort of like a spoiler within itself. But I think most people have probably already seen this film when it comes to horror films in general. I know some people say that they prefer the remake, but I think the remake is like a little bit too polished in a way, and I don't really like the whole digital effects or whatever what that they've thrown in there. I think this feels more, I'm not sure if I would say more realistic, but it has a more creepy vibe to it, and I like the atmosphere way more in this one. I don't really like the whole blue sort of like tone to the remake. I thought that kind of like threw me off a little bit. But this one, amazing acting, great idea for a film. I mean, obviously, this is when Japanese horror were really at its peak, when they released all of these amazing films, the ghost films. And I would say most of the American remakes they made out of these films in general back in the day, they were just really garbage in comparison to the original like Japanese versions. They also like remade some of the like movies from Korea as well. I mean, that's still going on today until this day, but I would still say watch the original ones before you watch the remake. That's usually what I say about almost every single movie, really. So, but anyway, Ringu at number 1. I really enjoy this film. I don't know what else to say about it, but if you haven't checked this one out, go check it out. If you like ghost movies in general, like this one also, I would say another thing which I really enjoyed about this film, I completely forgot about that, but this one doesn't necessarily rely on any like jump scares or anything like that. This one builds atmosphere, and I really wish that more modern movies took note or like took inspiration from this, just based on that, like that they don't really need to have lots and lots of jump scares to make a really amazing film in general. Yeah, that's the other thing I wanted to say about that about this film. But anyway, Ringu, or The Ring, the original one from 1998. If you haven't seen it, check it out. There you go. So that's my top 10 favorite horror movies from the year 1998. I'm gonna try to prioritize the 1999 for the next video. I'm not really sure when that's going to be. We'll see eventually when that happens, but I also need to make the top 5 of the month for the month of September, but I'm actually considering to make that one at the same time when I make my wrap up of the Horrorthon video. So anyway, hope you enjoyed this particular video. Like this video if you liked what you saw. Subscribe to my channel if you do like my content, if you want to follow me on YouTube in general. So but anyway, hope you enjoyed this particular video, and see you next time. Bye bye.